Welcome to a Drop Tent Media production.
Today on Seriously Dad, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Marc Staudenmaier. He is too modest for his own good. But he interviewed us half the episode, which was really awesome. He's a great dad. He's a great comedian. He's a great promoter. You're going to love it. Check us out.
Seriously, Dad?
Seriously, Dad? Two father comedians out of Philadelphia. Seriously, Dad?
Dad? Seriously?
Dad?
Seriously? Seriously?
Hey, Seriously Dad here. What's up? Albert, Jay, Marc Staudenmaier.
Thanks for letting me be here, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks
This is
for
fun.
letting me be here.
What do you think of that?
No, people
intro? That
don't
was
let
good,
me
right?
be in places, so this is nice to actually be invited. Usually I invite myself, so this is very nice.
What would you be doing if you weren't here?
Oh, with the family. So I'd much rather be here.
Yeah. We're gonna be a 4-hour episode for you.
He's like, can
We
do
could have done this
another one?
episode in Indiana. I'm in there. That's very cool. I know. I appreciate. I'm a big fan of this podcast, so I'm very glad to be on it. I like the dynamic of you guys together. I think
All
that's
right.
very neat.
So you listen.
Oh, I listen.
Okay.
You guys have a good dynamic.
You
guys
listened or you listen? Like
I
you-
listen.
Okay.
You guys are like physically the opposite of each other. So it's like
That'd be the
He's like,
it's like the yin,
one's
it's
big,
like the
one's
yin and the
tall.
yang if the yang had high blood pressure.
I knew you were going to have to. He always
there it
has to
is.
say something.
It always touches Jay's nerve.
I know.
Every time I go, Jay can. I mean, I don't know why Jay's had a hard time with me busting on his weight. I don't know why it bothers you so
I don't
much.
know. I just wish you had something else.
I had other stuff. Oh shit! No.
shit.
So Jay and I were on a show on Thursday, and
right.
Jay was up there, and forget what happened, and someone was like, "My dog's name is Captain America."
Oh, yeah.
And then when I was done, when I went up to, cause I was hosting, I was like, "Jay Yoder, buddy," and I was like, people also call Jay's dick Captain America because it only comes out in theaters.
And I was like, no, bitch, it's on demand.
So I have other jokes for Jay too.
That was a good one. No, that was a good one. I like
think
that.
You redeemed yourself a little
That's
bit.
good.
So how's dadding going for you? You're new
Very
dad.
good.
You're kind of new, right?
I mean, I'm a 40-year-old, so not that new. I feel like I'm in, it's not that new, guys. It's just, when you're 365 dadding, it's not that new.
No, yeah.
For 4 years,
you get
almost 5 now.
A lot of reps.
Yeah. No, it's exciting. I love being a dad. Always wanted to be a dad. So
Are
it's
you,
not like it's
are
an
you a
accident.
good dad?
I am a good dad.
How would
I
you know?
feel like I am a
How do
good
you,
dad.
How do you know?
That's the $6 million question. It's the only job where like you don't get a review until like 25 years down the line.
Yes.
You're working every day as hard as you can, and then your formal review comes in 25 years when your kids just drop some bombshell on you, and you're like, damn.
Correct.
I
Like,
fucked
Dad,
up.
I have an OnlyFans. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Fuck, I thought I was doing so well. Are you serious?
no, I mean, I would say that I know I'm a good dad because if I wasn't, I'd be more selfish and I would probably be doing comedy a lot more than I'm doing it right now.
I would say I know, like, thing I know is like just my kids' reaction. Like, are they happy and smiling? Do they enjoy what they're doing? Are they excited about things that they're doing? I mean, like that's the proof's in the pudding in my work. Like, it's like if they're sitting there and they're excited about whatever it is they're doing, or if they're not excited about something, can you help them change their mindset? Like
Ooh,
my
that's
my
good.
youngest is having an issue now where like she'll, we'll sign her up for something like deck hockey, and like she immediately gets so shy. She's like an onion. But then once she gets out there, she's great. So the morning of, the minute it's impending and it's there, that commitment monster that I think we all feel, she's battling at 6 now. And it sometimes paralyzes her. And it's like one of those things that I think my mom and Amanda like are motherly, which they are. And I'm like a little bit more of pragmatic about it, I guess would be the word I would use, where by the end of it, I'm like, you're going to have a good time. So we're not going to talk about it right now. So whatever
Yeah,
you
that's
need to
kinda how I
do,
do it.
kind of like, let's just move on from it because we got breakfast to have now. We got some other things going on, but at 11:30, we're leaving and that's that. And I just try not to give it too much air because once you give it air, then they just kind of go through with it.
Yeah,
So
you're
I-
like, you know how this is going to end.
yeah.
You're going to go, you're going to be kind of quiet, you're going to open up, you're going to have a ton of fun. It's going to be hard to get you to leave.
Yeah.
We all know this playbook. Like,
And then
just fucking go.
and then when you flash forward an hour and a half and it plays out the exact same way, and then you pump her up about how well she did,
Yeah.
how proud you are of that she did, give her a high five, fist bump, whatever, and then that's good. So as long as when I'm talking to them and looking in, they're excited and they're happy, and they have things they're looking forward to that aren't an iPad or aren't something. You know what I mean? Like my oldest loves reading, and now my youngest is in first, so she's starting to read, and they both love reading. We went to a cafe, went to the library on Saturday, then we went to like this coffee shop. And we all sat and read for 30 minutes. And it was like, I'm like, all right, that's cool. Like, that's not something I would have done when I was their age.
Am I here just to have Jay brag about himself? Is that the only reason I'm here right now?
That's right. That's
Dad
right.
of the year over here.
But I mean, like,
I know
that's what
you're a
I'm
good
saying.
dad because you're involved. You're
Yeah,
like on the.
But but that's the proof to me. The proof to me is them. Like, if I see them and they're good, then I'm like, okay.
By the way, this marks a record for the longest Jay hasn't talked about having two mothers on your podcast. So.
That's right. That's it.
You really do listen. You really do listen. I like that.
You stop
by
beating
the
up
way,
on the talent, Mark. You don't come in here and this territory start beating up on the talent.
First off,
all
it's
right?
Pride Month, so
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a hate crime right there. There you go.
Neil was
Good
like,
job,
I'm not going to
Jake.
talk during this. 4 minutes in.
Jesus.
4 minutes in, I'm upset, Mark. You're coming in all mad.
How do you
Pride
know
Month,
how do you know
goddammit.
you're good? What's your grading rubric for I'm doing well at this?
I mean, am I good? I mean, I could be a better dad. I mean, like, my kids are definitely addicted to phones. Like, they know how to swipe my screen open. They know my
Yeah, okay.
passwords. They go, so like, there's that.
Yeah.
But like, I'm there. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm involved as much as I can be. I mean, I feel like that is. I feel like that's you just got to show up. It's
Okay.
like you just got to show up is half the
I
battle.
actually have a question for you. I actually want to ask a lot of these people a question. I never get a chance to, or I just never do it. I've heard people say, "I've always wanted to be a dad."
Yes.
I don't really understand that. Like, were you like 10 years old sitting in school
No,
thinking
no.
about like you and your son?
No, not
doing
that
so-
early on.
Yeah, so like
Once I got married, I was like, I want to be a dad.
okay,
Yeah.
So is that,
I didn't get married because I
you were
wanted
like
to be a
15
dad.
years old thinking about you and your kid.
No. Yeah. No, it was like, but I did get the dad bug earlier than my wife did, for sure.
Really?
Yeah, but it wasn't.
Why?
up to
Because
me.
you saw other people with their kids, or you just
Yeah, I also didn't want to be like an older dad either. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I can't really articulate why I really wanted to be a dad. I just knew I was excited to, like, my wife's like, let's have kids. I was like, okay, very excited about this. And then it took us a while. So like that was another issue.
Well, I think it happens
So-
when it's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
You know, because I had a cousin who she wanted so badly to be a mom. She was one of 5. They all had kids, and then I started having kids, and her and I are close in age, so we were kind of like siblings. And then she was just having trouble, and then I had a kid, and I felt bad telling her because it was
Oh,
just
yeah,
like
you
opening
feel-
up
you
this
feel really
wound,
bad.
you know,
Yeah.
like, and you feel bad, but I think it happens, and she has a beautiful son now, and she's
There you go.
so ecstatic, and I'm like, she's probably even better of a mother than she would have been just because she wanted it so badly.
Yeah.
So I love when I see that happen for people, when people get something they didn't. We had a guy, Paul Lyons, on
Yeah.
who, like, you know, had a kid out of high school, gave it up for adoption, and then he was like 60 before like he found out, like, and it wasn't like it was. Now they have some sort of relationship, and
Yeah.
it's kind of neat to. But I think it all happens when it's supposed to happen for everybody. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't think we were gonna have kids. Like, I always want. My high school. I had a high school sweetheart that I almost married when I was like right out of college, and we would. When we were in high school and we were dating, we would talk about what our names of our kids would be.
What does dating look like in Scranton? I've been to Scranton.
It doesn't start with someone who's related to you. That's where you're going.
I've been
It happens, but it
Scranton
doesn't start
it's
that
internally
way.
just gray. Everything, the sky's gray.
It
the
is.
buildings
There's
are
a
gray.
film over it. Yeah, no, I think a lot of times, like, you know, dating looks like anything. But I will say,
how big
her
was
and
the school,
I.
how big was the school you went to?
I bet she was pretty big. Clay was one
Actually, as a
school.
matter of fact, I went to 7 different schools, but the one that I spent the most time at was a Catholic school, and there were only 200 kids, 7 to 12.
So there's like
So like there were
14
20,
people
there
in
were
your
13
Well, makes
kids in
sense.
the class
Yeah,
ahead
that
of me,
makes sense.
22 in my class, like
So,
real
so
small.
that's a tough dating pool right there.
But like,
That is
but you,
tough.
but you weren't stuck to that.
Scranton?
There was a public
Scranton?
school. I mean, no, I did. The girl I dated didn't go
Let's
to
go
my
watch
school.
the train come through.
Yeah, right.
at the Steamtown Mall. Let's go check the Steamtown Mall.
I was the classic. She doesn't go to our school, guys. No, but
Nice.
she didn't. She went to the public school.
Nice. How did you meet? How did you guys
So
meet?
we met at a New Year's Eve party that I was invited to when I was like, I guess, a junior.
Church New Easier. Church.
No, this was like parents who were cool and let you drink New Year's Eve party.
Oh,
How
nice,
quickly
nice.
did you start talking about kids with her?
That night.
You were getting drunk.
Well, she was adopted and in foster care, and so for her, she was always very motherly and like taking care. I think she went through a lot in her life, so she had to grow up very fast. So I think, and then she was always a really good babysitter. So I would also
Did she have like a shitload of kids now? This woman.
So
Wait,
now
was she
she
your
has 2
babysitter?
kids. She was a babysitter.
No, is she your babysitter?
No.
though?
Yeah,
Oh,
she was
okay.
younger than me.
This game is a dead
She was younger
I don't
than
know.
me.
I feel like Jay always had like the same facial hair, even like at
Right?
14.
No, but she was a babysitter for one of the other kids where a foster kid was older, and then she had married a farmer. So I actually it was a dairy farmer. And so when they would eventually have a night, we would go babysit their 2 kids, or we would just go up and hang out at the farm a lot. And she just loved kids. She was always wanted to be around kids. And now she does. She lives in like one of the Carolinas, has 2 kids, is a teacher, went into the Army.
okay.
And then met another guy who was in the Army, and now he's like
Nice.
a pilot or something, and they have like a very nice family,
Oh, yeah,
a very
very
nice
nice
area.
life.
But you know, she always knew. So that was something that we had talked about when we were dating. Like, oh, what would our kids' names be? I remember having some of those conversations. You know, and those kind of
The
things.
thing
I
is,
was
though, when you were having those conversations, how serious were you about having kids with her, and how seriously was she?
I
about
think we
having
were
kids
both.
with you?
I think we were both dead serious.
Are you serious? Wow.
Because, like I said, like we both. Like,
So you're like
she grew up
seriously wrong,
fast.
though. You were seriously wrong, right? Because that wouldn't have worked out well.
No. That I mean,
fucking-
in retrospect, I think at the time the relationship was good for both of us because she needed someone who had a stable life. 'Cause and I kind of
And you
was,
did too. Now,
I wanted
let's-
someone
let's-
impulsive. I needed spontaneity.
let's be real. I know Jay. I don't know if I have great friends in comedy. I would consider Jay one of my good friends in comedy. I would say maybe one great friend in comedy. But like, I feel like from what I know about you, Jay, you would also be like, there was a lot of instability because like there was confusion with your mom, and then like, were you gonna hide it because your mom was hiding it? And
She
and
was
your
the
dad
first girl
was
I
like-
didn't. She was the first girl
Oh,
who
no
knew
shit.
everything about me
Wow.
from the drop.
Yeah.
Wow. So you had a level of
So
trust in this
that
person.
was she was the first one that
So she
I didn't
was she,
feel like
was
I
she a
hit about.
girlfriend or someone to confide in and have like that soundboard to be like, I got someone who I can actually like be myself around. I don't have that. with
oh,
my
Yeah, it was
Sounds
that.
like
It was
both.
both, and it was like, and it came out of lust. Like mostly, the relationship started out of.
Oh, for sure.
We met at a party.
Yeah.
She was cute. You know, we kissed at midnight. Whatever.
This is one of the heaviest high school
Jay,
relationships.
I know.
This is
I
like
know.
Dawson's Creek
I-
meets
you know,
Seventh Heaven meets
If this-
fucking
If this wasn't recorded, that like, and like, here's the thing: it's like, I want to start busting Jay's balls here, but like, his kids can start seeing this. You know what I mean? Like, there's gonna be a carbon copy of this for a long time.
Yeah,
Like, do I
that-
start like making up like scenarios that like his daughters will be able to see in a few years?
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't
Every
wanna do
once in a
that.
while, Jay will start talking, and it sounds like a Bruce Springsteen song. I'm like, dude,
is.
what are you talking
Jay,
about?
Jay is wholesome.
Yo,
Jay is
when I
a
was in
very
high
wholesome
school-
guy. He's
when
a
I-
good, genuine guy. I think
yeah.
that's what attracted
When
me
I
most
was in
about
high
Jay.
school, there was no confide in this and bounce ideas off of you. It was like,
It was
Seriously?
like, that's what it was. Like, am I gonna?
Seriously?
That's what it was. It wasn't like, hey,
that's
I
where I want
confide
to
in
go
you.
with Jay.
Can I tell you who I really
I'm
am?
gonna
I
let
was
you
like,
open
hey,
All right, all right, guys, don't talk right over each other. Try to-
But I wasn't doing that shit. It was like,
I
hey,
know.
can we
You're
like
right.
drink a couple of shitty
I
beers
know.
and I can figure
Well,
you
and
out?
I think what Mark
you're like,
Mark
I
was
want to
hitting
think
on.
about.
Seriously, lad?
And Jay's like, I want to play house. That was.
But I think Mark hit on it. He's like, because there was, even though there was stability, like I had 2 parents in my house. They were very active. They had me involved in sports and were at all the sporting events. So there was stability there. But what was unstable was the fact that it wasn't a typical relationship, and it wasn't
Yeah,
something I could
sounds
go
like
out
it.
and proudly say
right,
who they
right,
were.
right.
There was always lying at the grocery store, lying at parent conferences, and so that part of it was me not wanting to have to do that for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that
Well, at
was
least
the
you
part
knew
of
you did
it.
it. At least you knew that was
because
the
I
thing.
had to do that every day in the most minuscule of ways that I didn't want that. So I
Question.
think that was it.
Question for you. Was there plans for you guys to like leave Scranton? Was she more like, hey, this is my
Well, as a
way
matter of
out
fact-
of this lifestyle?
As a matter
Wow.
of fact, she wanted to go in the army.
Yeah.
So she was a year
and
behind
did you
me.
want to like go with her and go in?
So, well,
Oh, this
what had
gets heavy.
happened
Let's
is I
finish
was
it.
going to transfer down to Chapel Hill because she was being stationed down there after she finished her training. So I actually went through the process, applied,
Yep.
and I was going to transfer from her sinus down there.
You wanted to escape? Kinda. You probably
And,
not.
well,
know that
well,
at
I
the
was just
time.
like,
Well, he already escaped though. He was.
it wasn't
he
like I
out
was
here, right?
escaping. It was just like that's where she was. So that's where like, okay, well, that's where I'll
That's
go.
where you'll be.
Why
You'll
not?
be where she goes.
Yeah. Why not?
Well, I got a question
I like the
for you, but
spontaneity of it.
When did you wake up and go, okay, I gotta get the fuck out of this?
That decision was made for me.
Thank God. By her or
By her.
somebody
Yeah,
else?
yeah. She
Wow, she
when
did you
she
a
was
solid.
there, I think for her, we just naturally grew apart when you're away from each other like that. That we did our best, like during basic and all of those. We wrote letters every day to each other. You know, I would sit by I'd have my phone on me at all times in case she got a chance.
Because her
to
phone time
call,
was very erratic,
because
right?
the
Yeah.
ability for them to call when they're
my
in
gosh,
training
This is the sweetest story.
was that. So and then
My
and then-
dearest Gwendolyn.
Yeah, seriously, and I wrote
It's like,
I
every
do miss
day.
thee.
It's like,
and
oh,
the
today
scent
was
of your.
You probably,
did.
Jay's probably a really good note writer. He probably writes really good.
Oh, shit.
Like, he probably make grown ass
Oh my
men
gosh.
cry at the end of
No,
those
no.
things.
His
I will
notes
say
are probably
I-
on like hard stock,
Oh, yeah,
fucking
it's good
calligraphy,
shit,
like tri-folded
I went to
paper.
Catholic
He's got like a
school.
wax stamp on the fucking envelope and shit.
Here's the deal. I will say I
Probably
yes,
jacking off
all
over
of
that letter,
that,
too.
all of that is true. And I will say I feel like I wasted a lot of my romantic. I burnt out fat too early.
Oh,
to
your
point-
romantic bridges.
To your
I know what
point,
you're
like
saying,
I
like
think
you-
I put too much early on when I should have been having more of just casual.
That's-
high
this
school,
was
This was your
whatever.
first relationship, though, right?
college because I didn't really date in college
This
because
was
her and
your
I
first
dated.
relationship, though, right?
That was
Or
no,
your
it wasn't my.
first, like more than.
I
Like,
dated a girl for like 8th, 9th, and 10th grade.
Oh, okay, so
the
never
same
mind then.
girl.
Okay.
Yo,
then.
like what the fuck? That is some serious junior high / high school love.
Yeah,
like, they
but
were
I feel
3
like-
years.
But yeah, but again,
But
I
you
know
look at
I'm not allowed to
Scranton.
talk about my two moms because, but I think there was obviously a how could it not be for me wondering like, oh well, am I gay too? What am I supposed to
Yeah,
do?
oh,
Would I
I
be
for
doing
sure,
this?
yeah.
So I feel like I wanted to figure out like what does a heterosexual relationship look like? What is that? And so I think that appealed to me and so I sought that out more than I sought out being promiscuous or whatever.
Question for you: What did you, with your mom? Was there conversations around like what gay is, or did you guys just not talk?
Yeah,
about
'cause
it
it
was
was
like
funny-
the elephant in the room, or like
No, we talked about it because I remember her asking me when I was real young because she had told me my response was that it was someone who was sick. Like that's what I told her because I would hear
thought it was?
kids
Oh,
call.
yeah,
I would
because
hear
of the-
kids.
yeah,
There was a neighborhood kid who like didn't come out to play the one time and he wasn't feeling well, and a kid and he's like, I'm sick, and he's like, you're gay.
yeah,
And so
you thought that was
that's
sick.
what
That makes
like
sense.
set the definition for me.
Okay.
As just like a 5-year-old,
Yeah.
6-year-old in the neighborhood.
I love how this turned into Mark just firing questions.
I knew it was going to
like
be because he
Dr.
said,
Phil
I
the
know
fuck
that's
out
what
of
he
you right now.
does. That's what he does.
Dude, you hit him back. What were you? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in outside, a little bit outside Harrisburg. I mean, my address is Harrisburg,
I
Pennsylvania.
mean, were
but I
you
didn't grow up
knocking
in
him
the city.
down, Zach Morris? Like, what was
No,
your high school? What was your high school
No,
like?
not knocking them down.
Were
Not
you
knocking
dating-
them
Yeah,
down.
you know that world famous spot, Harrisburg,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
hot women.
Dude,
I mean, to be fair, you know, Shane Gilson and I attend the same open mic. I mean, we went in 2 different career paths.
now who did you take? Who did you take the 7th grade dance?
No one.
Did you go by yourself?
8th grade.
To go
Like you and your
myself.
boys
I
like
think
go hang
ninth
out on the
grade.
No,
ground?
not middle school. No, I stayed home. High school.
What was the
no.
first dance you remember taking to someone? Who
Homecoming?
was it?
Probably 10th grade.
And who was it? What was the young
No date.
lady's name?
No
No
date.
date?
No date.
Okay,
No date.
See,
Okay.
a lot of people didn't do that in my high school.
Very.
Prom? What about
There's
prom?
not enough time to cover my childhood.
What about
and-
prom?
Yeah.
Can we get into prom?
I took a friend. Took a friend. Girl. Friend. Let's just say that.
I've been doing a joke recently about the girl I took to prom.
Not a girlfriend, but that's a girl.
Are you one of his gay moms, dude? It's fine if you
I
are.
can
It's
hook you
fine.
up.
No, I mean, no, I mean,
with my
it's,
dad.
my parents are very Christian. If that sets the tone.
Oh yes, the tone sets.
Presbyterian,
How did that-
Christian, like my
Space
mom's,
for the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, my mom's dad was a coal miner from Pittsburgh, and that
Oh, yeah.
you know things were very traditional.
Yeah.
Like there was just,
You went
I
to-
mean,
you
my
went to, like, a
parents did
public
not
school?
have sex before marriage. That was like, I remember that being told to me multiple times. How they
You
did.
didn't even
I
know
mean,
what sex was, and they're like, "All right." You're like, "I'm all right. I won't
there
do
was
it."
no
I
talk
guess.
about that.
Yeah.
Absolutely zero talk.
rubbing
about anything
bodies.
Like, my parents did. Yeah. So
And
yeah.
you went to just public school? Or did
Yep.
you go to like some Christian?
I went to
academy
I
or
went to a
something?
public and you know what? It was like
Did they do the talk
Very-
in like
I mean,
4th or 5th grade? Like you're
no.
changing bodies?
nope, not
Your
at all.
school,
They
Your parents probably
did.
signed you out of that one.
did not talk about sex in any way.
Yeah, Catholic
Not
school,
at
right? All Catholic school.
No, he said it was
No,
public.
didn't go to Catholic.
Oh, you went to public.
Public
Like,
school.
and
Oh,
your-
wow.
Your schoolmates were talking about
Oh
it.
yeah, oh yeah.
I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
we do
And-
something in 5th grade now. 'Cause
Yeah.
I remember I didn't have to teach one day because during the time I would have been teaching, they had the assembly.
My best friend, like, I remember getting, he got
Your
like,
parents probably like opted you out of it, and you went.
You
and hung
had
out
to.
with,
Totally.
like,
Well, so
we
we
went and
had
hung out in
You had
like,
a
the
pizza party.
cafeteria.
Like, him and two other kids got pizza, and the fucking teacher.
Right. We're saving our children from that liberal propaganda.
All the other kids are walking back to
So-
classroom confused as can be. You're
I
like,
don't
wait, what
I don't
the
want to
fuck?
paint them as like Christian. Like my mom is conservative and my dad's liberal. My dad's a son of an immigrant, so he's very liberal.
Okay.
But they just grew up in the church, and that was very traditional.
Did they have
for them.
separate beds like every like 1950s?
No,
like,
they didn't do that. No, they didn't have that. They didn't have that. I'm trying to like, what was I gonna?
You probably had a good
question I was trying to-
upbringing, right? You probably had a very solid upbringing.
Yeah, I remember like my best friend to this day still, like I remember he talked about getting a blowjob and I was like, what the fuck is that? And I was like, so I like, back in the day it was just like early internet, Google it, and I was like, my mind was like, first of all, I was like, what the fuck? What did I just see? You know what I mean? Like, just coming on someone's face, like what's crazy? I never even knew that happened.
You went to
That's something I never even something that
Right?
never even resonated with me. I mean, I
did you
saw it
just
for the first
Google
time on the internet.
blowjob? Did you Google
Yeah.
blowjob?
I mean, he
Wait,
kind
you
of told me
couldn't
what it was. I didn't know
Wait,
what the
how
fuck
did you
talking
Google
to.
blowjob? What,
Google
you like
it?
barely
I
had
mean,
like
we're going back to
dog pile.
we're going
like-
back to like 2001, 2002.
Ask Jeeves. That's Steve's big favorite.
no, there was one
Jeeves.
before that. It was like dog pile or something.
Yeah, there was a lot of
There
them.
was like
Hotbot
a
was
first-
one.
There was no
like-
browser
What are you
before.
talking about? Like websites?
Like when, because how would we know where to ask? Like,
No,
you know what I mean?
actually
Like,
know there was this girl in my class. There was the rumor, I don't know if it ever substantiated, that her sister was on some website called Cum Fiesta. And so we all were trying to find her on Cum Fiesta.
so there was a website. There was a website when AOL first came out because
That's what
my
you were
parents
doing
gave me a
at the time?
computer.
Dude, we're in the sticks of Harrisburg. What else are we gonna do?
There was a website called jackinworld.com. That's where I learned everything.
I was like trying to protect
knew.
Jane and his daughters earlier. Now we're just talking about Cum Fiesta and
Jack
Jack
and
and
Rose,
Rose.
Cum
Fiesta.
With
No
no more
one's-
protection.
But like so when the
Is that when you found out you wanted to be a father when you saw Cum Fiesta?
No.
I think it's without the ing. It's just like without the G.
Don't let other people know what I'm looking up because no one on air can see this or know what we're
Jack
doing. So
him.
don't
But,
pretend.
Jack Inward.
but like, well, because I remember guys in the neighborhood doing the motion with their hand like
Yes.
this.
Oh, for
and I was
sure,
like,
yeah.
what are they doing? You know what I mean? Like, 'cause
Yeah.
When you learn
Never
those
understood
kind
what
of
that meant growing up.
things from like, you either are looking at a porn, right, or looking at a magazine, but like we didn't have the internet. Like, really wasn't a thing until I was almost in high school.
Yeah.
At the end of middle school, 8th grade maybe for me.
Do you think your parents just thought you'd figure it the fuck out? Like,
It was uncomfortable for them, so it was a very
Just
I don't know,
dark-
there's probably a word for it. Like it was a parent dominated household. You know,
Yeah.
there was no getting out of line. Getting out of line meant getting
don't
hit.
talk
Do you-
about
do
that.
you
Not
think
from
you-
my
do you
mom,
think
but
if
from
you-
my dad, but from my mom actually.
do you
But-
think if you went in the room and you're like, "Hey, Pop," or "Hey, Mom, I'm feeling things. I just like what like."
You probably
You
wouldn't
thought
have
you
even
would've got
thought
a
to
negative
do that.
response? Do you think they
So-
would have answered you?
He
Do you
must
think
have
they
knew
would've
that
said you're
you knew in
You-
your
I-
brain that was not something you even did. Right?
What's,
Well, it's just because it's hard with the
I'm
audio.
trying to make sure that everyone's not speaking over
Yeah,
each
all
other,
three of the
so that
audio
people at
going
home
at
aren't
once.
pulling their
There's a
hair.
cacophony
Probably a couple
of
edibles
sound.
went around. We're all just all over. the
Mark's
place.
first podcast, last podcast.
Yeah. So, but my point is, I think you would have, in your head, to Al's
Yes.
question, you wouldn't have even thought
So
that was a thing. Or
The story I remember is when email first came around, I gave my email address to like 2 people, you know what I mean? And was
Yeah.
like, and one guy sent me over these dirty jokes. I thought, oh, these are so funny. These are funniest jokes. And I sent them all my email list with all family members. And they got back to my mom like pretty quick. And that was like, like it was bad. That was a bad night. I mean, I remember it
See?
to that day. I remember to this day, that's a bad night in my life. So yeah, you knew I wasn't gonna.
So you messed up. See, I was smarter than that. I was,
Oh yeah, no, you guys was naive.
So
Yeah.
you
An
learned
idiot.
you learned sex from like the other kids,
yeah, it's okay.
I learned sex from the internet.
on the internet.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say other kids because
what a gamble that
Yeah,
is.
I mean, most of my friend group would be people like me. I grew up with a lot of Jewish kids I was friends with a lot of Jewish
Yeah.
kids, and their parents were very somewhat conservative. Not like they weren't like the Jewish kids that you see with like the
payouts
with
and
the,
all
yeah
that.
with like
Yeah.
the hair, and but like they walked the temple and they observed shit.
very-
I learned
So
it
it
from
was all
locker room
that
talk.
vibe.
I learned about
wasn't
sex
Jewish,
from
but they were
locker
my
room
friends.
talk.
Yeah,
Mine was locker room talk.
All
That's-
locker room talk. Huh?
Locker room
I didn't
talk.
play sports, so I didn't have any locker room talk.
Jeez, it's getting sadder and sadder. Jesus.
Like gym class. You don't even gym class. You do whatever.
Yeah,
like, but
I mean, Yeah, but you know,
Everybody
you had
making
4
up
minutes
what
to
they-
change in gym class. That stuff wasn't happening.
We had oh my God, this is so embarrassing. I'm going to tell it. Why not? So we had a game. Neil, right down.
Can be more embarrassing than that shirt you have on right now and the shorts.
Jesus, he's going hard in the paint here. Jesus, he's wearing the same outfit I've seen him wear the last 10 times I've seen him.
Mark, don't you have someplace to brew beer right now? Get the fuck out of here with the way you're dressed.
Yeah, don't,
I just,
thank you.
come
I
across
love
That's
Neil
how I show
defending me.
endearment.
That's
I
what I
can't
love.
show
Fuck outta
love.
here, dude.
I can't show love, so I break balls. That's
That's
love.
fine. I
love
like
that.
it. I will say, we had a game that we played when we were like in 6th and 7th grade, and I didn't make this game up. I'm going to say that first.
Here we go.
Yeah.
But the goal was to show your athleticism.
Okay, so you didn't make it.
Of course you didn't make it up.
I am spry for myself. So the game was called Titty Ball.
Nice.
And so
Jay's gonna do a backflip now.
So now what would happen is somebody would have like a dodgeball style ball. They would be like away from the group and you would be in this area in the yard and the guy would throw it behind his head, kind of like throwing a bouquet of sorts. Okay. And then everybody kind of had to fight to get it. And whoever caught it before it hit the ground got to claim a young lady who they would love to feel their titties.
Wow.
Wow.
No, it never happened. It wasn't. It was all fantasy.
Okay.
But like you would pick.
He's like,
But you got to you got to pick from the pool of either celebrities or people in the class.
those are your titties.
Those are
your
guy
titties.
games. It's like we want to talk about our feelings, but we need some kind of weird
Yes.
scenario to be able to do it.
And it was like none of us ever got to touch any of the titties that we claimed. But like that was the stupid stuff we were doing when we were like in that hormonal period of like whatever, and then you would just either go on AOL and you would get someone to give you
chat room weird
a
shit.
password to go to like
chat
an
rooms?
adult site.
Yeah.
And that was the internet really like now it's crazy, but like back then you had like there weren't many options. It's like even AOL was
It
weird.
was the AOL.
AOL chat room.
All you did when you signed on to
chat
AOL,
room.
all it was chat rooms, and they had these channels. But
Yeah,
like,
or it'd be like-
really, it was just a static website, like just an article.
Yeah, you're right.
And nobody ever clicked the channel. I didn't click the channels. I went right to the chat rooms and pretended I was I wasn't.
So
you know what I mean?
yeah,
But we were all
it
just a
was
bunch of
nostalgia here.
catfish. You know.
Yeah, that's that.
I remember that. I'll never
weird.
forget the sound because I still do it. I do a bit in my act now where I act out the.
Oh, that thing.
Welcome, you've got mail. You know, and it's like that's iconic. You know what I mean? I saw a TikTok recently where the teacher had their kids stand in the line, and it was 90s pop culture trivia. And as the kid got to the front of the line, they would say, "What's a Walkman?" And like a man that walks, and they would just go down, and then they played the AOL Connect sign, and they didn't know. You know, it's just funny to watch them not know all of this stuff that as soon as I heard it was so nostalgic. And my kids will never. I mean, they'll be able to. You know, see it, but you can pull up videos of kids getting a rotary phone, being like, "What is this thing?" You know,
Yeah.
It's always fun, those moments, because I think parents really like my mother sees that and she kind of goes like, used to be better. It's like, is it though? You're using an iPhone right now. Like I feel like we improved. Kind of leave it alone.
Right? We just had-
why do they need to know what it was?
we just had our last Little League game for my daughter's game, and one of the dads was really good. He hooked up the sound system to play walk-up music for the kids, and it's
nice.
adorable because, like, you know, you got kids with Down syndrome, you got all these sort of kids, but they're like playing the air guitar in his bat. He's like jumping up to, and everybody's cheering. It's the most adorable thing. And he played the song that was from Problem Child. You guys remember this movie? Problem? And I heard it. And all I thought, I looked up and I'm like, oh my God, is that from Problem Child? I was like, man, that was the best. Although if I watched it today, I said to him, it would be trash. I would think it's. I tried to watch He-Man the other day.
Yeah.
My favorite cartoon. Like my grandfather, they lived out in Limerick, and it was before it was like, you know, cable and all that. So he would literally record every Saturday morning cartoon on VHS. And so when we would go, he had one of those, you know, those like those pull-out cells, and it was like He-Man, She-Ra, you know, Alf, like, and he would just record without the commercials. God bless that man.
Wow,
He
that
would
was worth a
sit
lot of
there
money.
and hit stop record and record when the I mean,
He
that
loved you.
that was cool. So like, but I remember watching all of those Smurfs and like that. And if you tried to watch it now, trash.
Yeah.
Like why? How did we even
Because
think that
quality's
was
gotten
cool?
so much better.
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen some of these like horror movies that are iconic. Like,
I used to. We had satellite TV in my house. And
like
so,
the real, like the big
yeah,
satellite?
like a satellite dish was on the
dude.
roof. Yeah, like that old school shit. But speaking of, like getting horned up and learning about sex, I remember like I was like, fuck it, I'm ordering one of these movies, and I was like, but I'm gonna be smart about it because I know I'm gonna get in trouble, but I'm gonna record it. That way, I'll always have
Genius.
You know, like back then, if you like were the holder of porn. You were like high
were a
up on the
gatekeeper.
totem pole.
Gatekeeper.
You were the king of that crew. So I'm like, fuck it.
You're
I'm gonna
America
get this.
1945.
Yeah,
Dude. You got the bomb.
Oh,
you know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah. You were killing it. You were killing it. Everybody.
You remember
Everybody
Saved
wanted
by
to
the?
go
Did you
to
guys watch Saved by the Bell?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you remember when that movie Showgirls came out?
Oh, yes.
Now, I didn't like Jessie Spano or
I know,
Elizabeth Banks.
but-
Wasn't my favorite. I wish,
Yeah.
obviously,
Yeah,
Lisa
all of them.
Turtle, whoever, Tiffany.
Gotcha.
But I learned how to set up 2 VCRs. My mom's rented the Showgirls, took it, and I like
Oh, yeah,
legally
little-
recorded it and had my own copy. And I remember
highly
thinking,
illegal.
I struck gold.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I
Hold
just
on,
remember
I
thinking.
didn't finish my
Yeah,
story.
sorry, but
So I get the thing. I'm like, I'm gonna risk it all. I'm gonna get yelled. I'm gonna get grounded, but I will be the holder of a VHF full of porn. So I set it up. I'm watching the porn. It's recording. I can't lose. And I hear somebody coming. So I changed the channel. So I changed the channel, right? Because I hear someone coming. And then they leave and I put it back on. I kept on changing the channel. So then the video, when I had the video of porn,
And what-
you'd be watching it. And
all of a sudden-
QVC or something. Then it would go back down. Then it would show back.
that was like naturally. That was like a natural stop.
It's like Guzzling Mills Volume 3 and then Meet the Press.
And my boy was like, yo, this is fucked up. I was like, look, I did the best I could, okay?
Albert's got the most educational porn in the business right now.
That's great. Your friends get to hover between the times when you had a boner and your parents were in the room,
Yeah.
not the times when you had a boner and your parents were in the room. This is when I had a boner and my mom's in the room. This is when I had a boner and my dad's in the room. Or in this commercial.
And it was like Dawn dish soap, but you like somehow still got off because you remembered a girl named Dawn that you had in class.
Oh my god, I remember. I mean, I could. Gosh, This is relatable to all of us because we're all pretty much the same age. Do you remember like they would say like the Land O'Lakes girl? Like if you lined her up with something, you could see like she had tits. Remember that?
No.
Oh, you never heard that? What? Yeah, I remember like they're like if you want to see the Land O'Lakes Indian girl, she was like Native American girl. She was like you lined
don't
her
get us
up.
canceled.
Yeah, you like lined her up with something. Like you can see
what?
she,
Like a mirror?
It was
Like
like
an
her
upskirt? What the
no,
fuck?
she was like sitting on her knees, and I remember like people like, oh, let's go look at this Land O'Lakes girl because I mean there was no internet.
What is
back-
going on?
Let's go
dude,
pound
in
off to the
Harrisburg.
Land O'Lakes girl.
Dude,
Jesus
dude,
Christ.
I would stop it during like I would freeze frame Titanic just when like Kate Winslet was. I mean that was the era. That was the era.
I will tell you, Jessica Rabbit was like
Yeah.
She was hot.
Yeah.
She was so hot.
That
Jessica Rabbit was so
my
hot.
grandparents had the VHS, and I would watch that. Like,
Dude, I want to see this Land O'Lakes girl.
Yeah.
Is that company still in business?
They don't have her on there anymore.
selling
'cause it's
titties?
not- It's not appropriate.
Search
So,
engine.
oh yeah, dude, don't look at this. So listen, I went and look and tried to put in a different search. Oh yeah, here's what I think you're talking about.
Right there.
You're talking about this. Hold on, I'm going to show everybody. Give me 2 seconds, everybody. I know this is a little bit of dead air, but we are bringing up.
Yeah,
and if you are not, if you,
she's sitting on her knees. But
Yes.
when you're in 4th grade and someone's like, "Oh, by the way, go to the grocery store and you can see the Land O'Lakes girl's tits," I'm like, "Okay,
Yes.
all right."
I totally get
That's
it.
like boobies on a calculator.
Yeah. That's exactly. That's the equivalent. That's a great
It was just
analogy.
it was the way
That
you
is
said
the boobs on the
boobies. The
calculator.
way you said boobies made it
Yes,
funny.
no.
It's like
Albert dead on analogy.
That's it.
So this is what I think people are talking
That's-
about. Yes, you apparently can fold up,
Yes.
and what it does is it brings the kind of the indentations on her
Yes.
knees upwards if you fold it,
Fuck
and it
that
does look
fucking
like she has.
origami porn.
Dude, well,
bullshit.
you gotta go back to the era, dude.
I got a
That was like-
I got a VHS.
You're not the same age.
Well, do you remember watching the pay-per-view? Because there was always one pay-per-view
Oh,
channel.
yeah, you could get
with the
some-
squiggly lines, and every
Yeah, I never
once in
figured
a
that out.
while it would go clear, and you were like, "I see titties." Seriously, you could like, and I would also do it because I was into wrestling, so I would also watch the pay-per-view because you could kind of hear the commentary because my parents would not let me get the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
I had one friend who was allowed to, so you tried to go over their house, but if you couldn't, you had. But so, and the same with like the 2:00 or when Cinemax We had a thing where they gave us.
He just had a moment. Did you see him
shit.
have a moment?
Let him.
I have never seen him have
Shut
that
your
face.
dumb mouth.
He
Let him dip into whatever
I
past
have
is in
never
there.
heard that except
Whatever is about to come out is going to
gave
go.
us-
Let him finish.
So Adam's Cable. My dad was
Are there
living
buffalo
in,
wings here? Go
in
ahead.
Susquehanna. My dad was living in Susquehanna, which was kind of up in the sticks of like
Yeah.
almost in New York. And the Adam's Cable came up, and so to get everybody enticed, they gave all the channels for free, including the Playboy channel for like the first month. To entice you, so that then you would
Yes.
like.
Oh,
and
man.
I
Entice the
remember
shit out of
like
you,
watching it. My babysitter came up and caught me watching it in my parents' room.
And she got stuck in a chair, and you had to.
Yeah, not 1994.
I know.
That'd
I'm
be
sorry.
great.
I know. Yeah.
No, but like I remember her saying, I was like, "Oh, they know I watched this," and she just kind of. Like, that's what I said.
the best line of all time.
In the moment, that's a pretty good line. In the
They
moment,
know.
he had nothing. He's
They
probably
know.
he's like 12 years old. He came with that line. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
That is-
credit. Props.
And she,
What a
I gotta imagine she
confident
slowly
mom.
backed out of the room. It was like, okay.
She was just like, "I don't get paid enough." That's very must have been her perspective.
wow,
That's fantastic.
they know I'm
What a
like this.
great off the just clutch line.
God.
Like,
First crowd work I ever
I know.
watched. First crowd work.
oh,
I watched this.
Yeah.
at one point,
They got it just for me, actually.
They all, yeah. They also know that you should be naked now too.
She was. She was a looker. I don't even remember her name, but she was a looker.
I think it's weird you get in trouble, though. When you're younger and you get in trouble for
I
doing
know.
shit. That's weird.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're just like figuring
Trying
it
to
all
think.
out.
I'm trying to think if I ever got in trouble.
Yeah, I did. So my parents had obviously had, based on our earlier conversation, had parental controls on the internet growing up.
Really?
I found a workaround where I went to eBay and I would like search Jenna Jameson on there. People would be selling her autograph.
Wait,
on,
how
like,
old are you again?
I'll be 38 in August.
All
Which
right.
now I feel how old it is. I was like, I feel like
I would
I'm,
go on eBay and look up Jenna Jameson.
yeah, because eBay was not blocked.
Right.
But
I
you would
guess
see like
that-
Jenna
you would see,
Jameson
like, her
autograph. And she would
autographed over some
autograph like
titties or
naked
something.
photos of herself. And so
And you were pounding off to that shit?
absolutely.
Wow.
I'd print them out on the
makes
printer
sense.
and that's like that was
You
your
were
version.
printing them out?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Well,
This
I remember getting
this is
a
era 2000.
My favorite thing. I was in France on a church group. Trip.
Oh, right.
We were taking all these
you're
church,
probably
viewing
so
all these
pent up.
churches.
Sorry.
It was supposed to be. It was
Sorry.
World Youth
Aren't
Day.
you like the counselor or the
No.
chaperone on these trips?
This was when I was in eighth grade.
Oh, I thought you don't you chaperone French trips?
Don't
now?
think about these
Now-
and put
do
them
I do
together.
this now? Yes, I do this now.
But he's very worldly.
Yes, I'm very. But this was the first trip someone ever took me on, and it was with our youth group. I convinced my mom to let me go, and it was all very Catholic, all very good and wholesome.
I convinced my mother. to
In
let me
Paris, we walked through the subway, and there was people selling stuff on the side, and there was a poster. And at the time, the Spice Girls, Baby Spice, huge crush on Baby Spice. They had a poster for sale in Paris in the subway, them in their lingerie.
Wow.
I have never heard Jay exhale this much.
That was like
These
that
sound
poster.
effects, man.
That poster.
We're going to have to cut this
got
out when your wife hears this.
a lot of mileage on that poster.
A lot of mileage.
on that, but you can see that poster from space.
Well, it's got a film on it now, if you know what I mean. Sorry to be
His
so.
wife's like, we had that poster in our den.
I was like, I
That's
wonder
in my
what
daughter's room.
It's my mantelpiece.
Emily Bunton. Baby Spice.
Wait, who's Emily Bunton?
Baby Spice.
Yeah, dude. Oh, he knows her real name.
What a turn we took. We're like, so you could father. So
Oh, it turned into the Dirty Dad
Yeah.
podcast. It turned into a
You're not
Dirty
a good
Dad
father.
podcast.
You're not a good- no,
Maybe
but-
I'm not.
You know
well,
what?
no, to know bad, to know good, you have to know bad.
Well, here, let me ask you guys this.
but
Because you guys have talked
porn
on other
is a bad.
podcasts about, I think it was you, Albert. You talked about like, hey, I mentally need to prepare myself for when my daughter starts dating. Based on just our conversations right now, when we're just barely over double digits age, how do you feel about your because we all have daugers, ours having sex? It's a real thing right now.
Well, it's part of life.
Here's
It's part, well, I will say this. This is very interesting. I remember when, just casually in passing, someone had mentioned that my daughter had a crush on a boy. And then my daughter's reaction confirmed it. And it's really weird. But like, I got such a wave of like insecurity and jealousy over me. And she's she's young. She was like 6, 7 years old. You know what I mean? But like, I got so like uncomfortable and not happy. And then I was like, yo, you got to relax a little bit. But dude, when I first heard like Lainey likes a boy, and I got this wave of like kind of anger, a little bit of jealousy, and then very uncomfortable.
Because for the first time in your life, you realize you're replaceable,
I'm not
and your
the most
ego took a
important.
hit.
I'm not the most important guy. Yeah,
I forget if it was like Freud or whoever it was said like we all have kids because we want to have our legacy going. It's all a selfish reason to have kids, and I think like that is to the core of it.
Yeah.
So
And knowing like here's the problem. We are really good guys. We wouldn't all be in this room if we weren't really good guys. I mean, Neil's here, but that's just his house.
he's got to be here.
I feel like I should say for the podcast.
I have to be here.
I feel like I should say for anyone who watches this podcast, hasn't watched, Neil was the producer because when I used to watch you guys, like, who is this voice?
I think he likes
He's a very
that.
unique
I think Neil
voice
likes
too.
that
Well,
mystique.
if I'm on everything,
And I didn't really know
a little
Neil
much.
prior to this.
We've
So it
only
was like,
got
who
to-
is this person talking? It's like there's like they only afford 2 cameras and there's a third one that they don't
like
you
very
know,
much.
I was like, so yeah,
Neil
Neil
likes
Wood
them
producer of the
to
show,
go.
awesome dude. So
Neil
there you go.
Wood.
So to my point, like we just had the conversation we just had for the last 30 minutes because that's what guys do. Like I think there is an innate thing there that we go through those phases, hormones, whatever. So I think that's what makes dad so anxious is because we know that we did stuff like play titty ball, like look at the Land O'Lakes girl, like record satellite porn. Like
yeah, that was a good ass
we
point.
did
Don't
that
judge.
stuff, but that doesn't define who we are now. You know,
Yeah.
and those are things that you go through testing boundaries. You do those things. That's what makes it so hard when we think of ourselves as dads now, because even if it's a nice kid, that doesn't mean he's always a good kid. You know,
Right.
and even though I'm a good guy. I know I'm a good guy. That's how we
But yeah,
started.
he's got a version of
even
titty
though we
ball,
all
too.
know
Yeah.
we're good parents, it doesn't mean we were always good.
Let me ask you guys this then. Are you guys going to raise are you going to raise your kids in a similar fashion to the way you were raised?
I just want to raise my kids.
No, don't go there, Jay.
Yeah.
It's a yes or no. It's a yes or no
Yeah,
kind of
he's
question.
Dr. Philin the shit
It's
out
yes
of
or
you
no kind
right
of,
now.
are you going to raise your kids in a general vicinity of how you were raised?
Okay, what do you mean by? I mean, that's a great question. But it could
Take
be
it-
on morals. It could be on communication
all
styles.
the
It could be
above,
on.
encompassing all
Yes,
of that.
I'm going to say yes.
Okay, yes. Okay.
No.
Yes. And I feel like the same way. And I
say
feel
no.
like we also have kids. I think, Jay, you're probably more the exception than most people that I talk to. We have kids and we want to raise them in what our version, which I think is how my parents want to. This is how kids should be raised, not the way I was raised.
Yeah.
And I think you're probably
Well, no, like
an
my-
exception,
yeah,
and
like-
you have a different relationship with your mother than we probably do with
Well,
our mothers.
they like you know, my parents, my family, whatever, they were just trying to make sure I was a good person. So I think the focus was on being involved, seeing a lot of different activities from like jazz and tap to football and basketball to all of those things. So like that's what I do with my daughters. I make sure they see everything. There was no focus because my mom's and my dad's relationships were so unique and they were figuring themselves out. There wasn't this hardcore push for me to be one way or another. It was just like be well-rounded, work hard, play hard. It was all my mom's mantra to me was balance. And so so in that regard, I will raise my daughters that same way.
I think parenting is an ever evolving thing. There's always
True.
something new. There's always something we thought was right that was wrong, but part of it is right, but some of it is wrong. So if you do it in this way and do it this style, but don't go that because that's too far. Like I feel like parenting is always changing. You know the way we used to discipline. Now don't discipline that way. Some people are finding or thinking that it's better to talk it out than to strike someone or than to yell at someone. And it's like there's just a lot of different pieces that are always being maneuvered and manipulated when it comes to parenting. I don't think any parent's ever going to sit back when the dust settles and said, I did it perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, first of all, Jay, if I could recommend a book to you, I think you would really enjoy. Or
Please.
if Audible or something, it's called, do you know who Derek DelGaudio is?
No.
On Hulu, he has the best. I don't know. It's not a special because he's a magician. Yeah. It's called In and of Yourself. It is
It's a great special.
the best.
Really, really good.
I think maybe
Danny
the best
Braff
piece
turned
of
it on.
content I've
Yeah.
maybe ever seen.
Yeah.
So if you have Hulu, Derek DelGaudio, In and of Itself. He was also raised by a gay mother he's a book called Amoral Man, which is like a play on words because he's talking about him
Amoral,
deceiving
moral,
people his whole life. He's
yeah.
a magician.
Yeah.
Amoral Man. And I think I would like any book I would recommend because I love to read. I'm a nerd, and but like I would say like I think you'd get a lot of value
That's
out of
cool.
that book. But I think there's something with boys that have mothers who are gay they are close. They are close in that. I mean, him and his mother. I mean, so I don't want to spoil. I mean, if you have Hulu, I don't want to spoil anything about it because it's just.
Yeah,
All right, no, I'm
because
good. That's
I didn't finish it. It was really good. I didn't
Unflawless
finish
thing
it.
that I've ever seen in my entire life, and he's not a comedian. He's a magician. But his mother is a part. You'll see, and you just see the way they.
That's cool. No,
communicate.
dude, I'm excited. That's
So
awesome.
yeah, actually, I want to watch it with you. Can you do that?
Dude, can we hold hands?
I would love, dude.
Yeah, like,
I would love to
how
watch
did I
that
get
shit
this
with
mixed
you.
up?
I watched
We'll do a
that.
viewing
thing.
Jay, you could. You could
4-5
benefit
fighter.
from this, but Albert, you just keep on doing.
I
the
don't
same
know, man.
shit
I
you're
just
doing,
feel.
but Jay.
It's one of those things where it's like I can't wait till my daughter watches The Godfather because like the most perfect piece of I want to like watch her watch The Godfather because it's
Yes.
like, just an amazing thing to watch kind of thing. It's like I want also like Halloween, like just seeing them watch something for the first time I know is just like.
No, there's
flawless
something
piece of
about when you
content.
show somebody that you know would like something. Like
Yeah.
whenever I see like somebody doing jujitsu, I think in my head Albert
Oh, yeah.
Davis.
But that's
would
I
like
want to put that
Yeah.
because you kind of said something first, and I want to go to Albert then real quick, which was like I understand like you were talking about like how times have changed, like we don't hit our kids anymore. But I feel like I grew up getting hit, and it was like I feel like they knew that what they were doing was wrong.
You think so?
Well, I mean, when you have someone, I mean, Paul Lyons talked about like, or Joey, I can't remember, like someone had a bloody nose, when
Yeah.
when your child is physically bleeding from a hole in their body that like maybe you took it too far. Maybe it wasn't the best thing and you should have done
I mean,
that.
I would
So it's
agree
like-
with you, but I don't know if everyone. Well, if you grew up and it was like, yeah, I'm bleeding from my body because I did that thing they told me I shouldn't have done, and I was even kind of prepared for it because I knew I was going to get caught, but I really wanted to do X, Y, and Z. You maybe think that's pretty fucking normal. I think so.
Well, I think the
Yeah,
people
I
who
guess-
spank had a thing that I've heard where it's like it's over. You're paying a debt. It's transactional.
Yeah,
So
it's like
in their
prison.
mind,
When you pay
it
your
was
society
like
and you leave. Yeah.
yeah, it was like you were like so it's over with. It's not this lingering guilt or whatever. It's like you paid your debt, we're done, and move on. So I think people who do spank or spanked, in a corporal way like schools, I think that's probably what was going through their heads. Like it was a transaction, it's paid, we're over. I don't know.
But dude,
But you're right. I couldn't if I hit my daughter and she's if I hit my daughter. Two, if she's bleeding, like
I couldn't
it
ever
would
hit
break
my
my
kids.
heart. Like I don't know
Yeah,
that I could do that.
I couldn't.
definitely not your little girl. Like, maybe a young man.
No, I mean, I'm a boy.
Maybe
I
a young
couldn't.
man.
I mean,
I'll tune up a young boy. I just love the way you were leading. It's just like,
But like,
I'll
like
fight
a girl,
kid.
like I couldn't like open
well,
my
I
hand
grew
and
up.
smack
So
me.
my
Come on.
sister is extreme, and she, here's the thing too, is like she was extremely intelligent, and my parents were both extremely intelligent, and she was so nice. So like I was just jealous. I couldn't hate my sister because she was just a really cool kind of person. I would make fun of her because she was a nerd, and that's like kind of my edge on her kind of thing. But like, there was always that
You roast the people
not
you
only,
love,
because
right?
like I was the only one getting hit because she was presenting deliverables to my parents that were of someone that they would expect to raise their kids, which was a future valedictorian of her high school.
Oh, your
And
sister was a valedictorian?
valedictorian, number one, her college. She went to the same college I did and was number one
and
at the
buried
college.
you, huh?
Full ride to University of Penn for vet school, and it's like one of the few exotic vets in the United States.
How does that make you feel today?
Not great.
Dude.
I mean, I'm so happy.
Dude,
you
my
feel like
sister-
there's still a
my sister was a
competition?
high school valedictorian. She went to Columbia. She's an oncologist at Hopkins now,
Dude.
like just killing. And I'm like, oh, you think that's a joke about watching porn?
See, that's why you gotta be an
The
only child,
VHS.
because then there's no competition. I'm the best.
Well, I think that's part of why I do this. I think it's kind of why I mean, I know you're an only child, but
joke-
like
we joke about our
had that.
shit,
My
yeah.
sister was never funny, and so like this is maybe an edge, and she's also like not the greatest public speaker in the world. I mean, she has public spoken because she's Braun is an expert on certain things, but like
Yeah.
I think when we're in a room together, she more lays back. I engage. So I think like, hey, where do I?
We each
work
have
the-
your strengths.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
have
think
very
that's
few of
important.
them, but-
Like I didn't have siblings, but now I have two daughters, and so when I watch them with each other, they're like in my mind like Anna and Elsa. I think that's like a perfect like where Disney kind of like when you think about it, you strip it away. What is it trying to say? Everybody has their own strengths,
Yeah.
and my daughters have that too, and it's great to see them kind of be symbiotic with each other now, even with my oldest, my youngest, even though my oldest has autism, my youngest knows that. She'll say, oh, at least he has autism, but she'll admire her strengths, and the same there. So I think as long as as long as I, as a parent, am acknowledging both of their strengths and they are acknowledging each other's strengths, that's good. I don't know if that, would you say that was happening for you guys growing up? Did you feel like your parents were giving you a due as a funny guy?
No, but
So they were judging you both by the same
correct.
ruler.
And I think kind of making this full circle then, I think that's what says that you're a great father, because you don't have your girls competing for your love. You have that, like, you are like recognizing each of their strengths, but you're also at the being like, hey, we're just gonna brush over your opportunity area. It's like, no, we're gonna like, hey, like if you have like, we'll talk about tomorrow. Like we're gonna let you do, have your moment. We'll talk about tomorrow. I think that's what makes you a good father. And I think
Good night, guys.
Neil, I think also makes you a good father about each of you, about each of you. And I mean, I know Jay a lot closer. It's like I recognize you as a great father. Because I see not only stuff on Facebook, but like when you and I have conversations, you're like, "Hey, I just got back from my kids' D-ball."
No, not just kidding.
I know the PR is working really well.
Like, Al and I have talked about this in the past too, because with the difference, like with Al being like a custody parent, you and I have talked about the plate appearance was the analogy we used a ton, where it's like it's not so much about like the reps as the quality of like the moments too. You know what I mean? Like when you have opportunities to be better or do things you didn't have to do. Yeah. I think that's where it's impressive too. Like, even like Al, like he has 2 daughters, but one of them he had nothing to do with in terms of biology. But like he's stepping up to the plate and saying, "Oh, okay, you're both my daughters, you're both my family," and like things like that become to me is like even more impressive, because I was ever presented with an opportunity, I shot twice and scored. You know what I mean? Like that's I have to.
Yeah. No, I mean, and to benefit Al and bring it full circle for Al, then it's like there's a book called The War on Art by Stephen Pressfield. And he talks about being a professional, and there's only one thing to be a professional, and that is show up and do the work.
Yeah, there it is.
And so not to diminish what being a father is, being being a professional, bricklayer or computer programmer, but like being a professional. I mean, there are probably how many people out there? I mean, what Paul Lyons said, probably wish he had a professional dad. Someone that just shows up every day, no matter what it is. And so I think like if we want to wrap this whole podcast out, which I think is what Neil's trying to do, it's like I'll sit here. I'll sit here.
Don't give me the producer notes. I give you producer notes.
Why are you showing there's a man behind the curtain? There's a Wizard of Oz here.
I just think like, hey, I think we can both recognize that you both are just great fathers. I think like, hey, and I think you guys seeing each other, which is why you have a podcast. It's like, what's the like, steel recognize steel or whatever the thing is, or shield
game recognize game.
Thank you. That's my version's like the 19th
Steel
century version.
recognize.
There were no games in my day. We had ball and a cup. But like I think that's why you guys, because like you probably had the opportunity to bring on some shitty. I mean, we can all think of some people who are in comedy who are shitty fathers. And I bet you they will not appear on this podcast. So, I think that's kind of what you guys. I think that's kind of what you guys.
I think too, like you strive to be like anything. Like I remember playing sports, and you thought you were the man, but if we had video footage, you'd probably been like,
"You suck."
Maybe not. And so I want to be mindful of being grounded too. To be like, okay, yeah, I'm doing some great stuff. I just coach special needs baseball teams. I do all this. That's great, but there's still other stuff that I could do better. Like, so I think as long as
you're always going to feel like you could have done it better.
And I think as long as you're thinking that way, then you're not getting too much ahead of stuff. You're trying to stay grounded. And there's moments when you mess up.
I mean,
I messed up so hard. Can I tell you about how I messed up?
But I have a question for you. And this is, but we can do this for the Patreon or whatever. But like, you go ahead. What's your thing?
So I messed up so hard last night. So I did the 2 shows, got home really late. So before I went, my job was to go by the tooth fairy. My daughter lost a tooth, so we get a book for them instead of money. Mm-hmm. So I went to BAM on my way to Joel's. And got the book. Well, at first, my wife sent me a book that she was holding up. It was a Sailor Moon book, which is like under the manga section.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I opened it, said 13 plus, and I'm opening it. And I'm like, geez. What? No. There's like girls locked in basement. I'm like, what is happening?
What is
manga? Is like, I don't even know how to define manga. But it's like
a comic book something, a culture. It's like
anime and
manga. But so like, and my daughter's 9 turning 10, but the autism part of her, like she gets, like whenever she sees something, it like is ingrained. It's like Neo.
Does she
in the
have Asperger's or straight on
chair.
autism?
I don't know, like per se where on the spectrum, but there's certain things for her that just show up like that. But she's not, I wouldn't say, I've had a lot of students who have had Asperger's. I wouldn't say she's Asperger's, but she does exhibit extreme like memory recall and things like that. Visually, she scripts a lot. So like, I'm looking at them like I told my wife, I'm like, we can't get
Isn't
this
that what
for
they say
her.
about autism? That their IQ is like off the charts.
So I
but
think,
just have,
well,
like,
they
that
think in
disconnect
images.
like the brain
so the
or
thing
something.
for her, I think we all think in images. Hers are just her. It's like when you play do you ever create a basketball player or something in a game, but you only get so much to distribute, so you can't make your player 100% on everything.
Exactly. Yeah.
So some of hers just got put all the way to 100 that don't typically on a kid get put to 100, and then some of the others got put down to 0 or 10 that would have been maybe closer to 50 or 60 on a normal kid. So I think like those kind of things have happened for her. So I was like, I can't give her this book because she's saying stuff. Like today we were on the baseball field and the ball went to another kid, and so she was throwing a fit because the other kid got it and she didn't. He stole my ball. And she's like, maybe we can kick him off the team. And then she said, maybe we can make him sick.
Whoa.
And I was like, what are you talking? Like, first of all, I was like, that's twisted. And I'm like, well, where did that come from? That wasn't an innate thought in her mind. That was something in these graphic novels where there was a prank or a kid was doing a prank. She was reading a novel that should have been for a 12, 13-year-old that had a little bit more sense of what morality is. Where she didn't have that morality sense. And that's what's happening with the kids in internet now, is they're seeing too much that they can't process, like us with the porn is one thing, but now it's a bigger influx. So like I'm seeing these things. So, okay, so back to my mess up. So then I'm supposed to, I found a better book, Cupcake Diaries. Perfect. Right in her age range.
Are you guys sponsored by Cupcake
I loved it. I read it. It was great. Shut up, Mark. Shut up. It was a great book.
So I get it, and then I
adults.
get it, and I now wake up this morning, and my daughter's like, "My tooth is still under my pillow." I forgot to write
You
the
put the
note.
book in, though?
My wife, God bless her, usually texts me to remind me. So usually around like 11 at night, she would have been like, "Yo, don't forget the note."
Wow.
I didn't get the
dude.
text. I completely got
So what'd you
absorbed
do? You
in
just
it.
lied- you lied your
So
way through
we
it?
were like, well,
She's
she
like, well,
just
that's not your
changed her
tooth.
room. Well, it gets worse. She just changed her room to upstairs. So I'm like, oh, well, the tooth fairy was looking for you, but you weren't where you normally were, and she had a busy night. And so
Dude, you are the best at On Your Feet, dude.
I'm so
You are
bad,
the
but
best at On Your Feet,
it
man. This is
crushes
the
my
baby
soul.
story.
It crushes
Oh, the
my
tooth
soul.
fairy
to do
knows
it.
your tooth is still
Well,
alive.
right? When you grow up, like when you grow up, like I had to lie all the time. So I'm so good at it, and I hate that I'm so good at it.
Yeah, it's
and
kinda,
then
it's kind of fucked up trait to have.
it is. It really
It's
is.
kind of fucked up. I'm a great
A
liar.
useful trait.
But so
That was my set, Jay. I was
so now I rub
Right,
that.
yeah.
But then here's the problem: we get in to go to Little League. She gets in the car before me.
The receipt.
Cupcake Diaries. So now I don't have the book. So now I had to pretend
you
that
didn't
book
bring the
was
book
for
in.
something else now, because she's like, why is this
That
Cupcake
answers
Diaries
my question.
book?
So you didn't get the book in at all. So you completely forgot. You
Forgot.
didn't
I left
swap
it in the
tooth.
car.
Fucked it all up.
She found it in the car, and now I had to pretend it was a gift because she's the mystery reader on Monday for her sister's first grade class. So she's going in to read. So I was like, oh, this is going to be your present for being such a good sister and going to read your. And so I had to lie to her.
Jesus Christ.
Dude,
I got
this kid's
I'm
childhood is a lie.
So like,
Sham,
That was the
you
episode
fucking-
at this episode.
but like that. So like,
Lie, gorilla.
but like, so now I'm gonna have to like I have a BAM card that's really just a discount card, but I'm gonna put that under her pillow tonight. But it's just like, oh my God, I'm like, all of this. I'm lying, like the elf on the shelf. So like, yes, I'm a good dad, but man, was I
But
a
you're not
shitty
lying
dad.
for the bad reason. You know what I mean?
I
It
know,
could be
but it
someone-
gets. That's where to me it starts.
I-
getting-
Yeah, I don't know. It's really hard to tell someone to be
Listen,
honest
I'm
with
not a
me.
dad, and you know how I say on this.
Be
I
honest
feel like
with me,
lying
man,
is just,
lie
it's
on
terrible.
lie.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah, I mean,
like-
that's the thing about parenting. You could knock out like 6 lies in like a minute and a half.
Yeah,
but it's
Like you
This
lie
is
more
what
than
I
a minute
mean.
and a half. You lie more than the first
So
part of
does
your
the
day.
So you're
intention-
good dad,
Does
but you're
the
lying
intention take
fathers.
that away? You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
the,
Yeah, no, but
like you
so-
know, like does that absolve me?
So, but here's the thing. It's like, I'm gonna plug my web series here real quick. But like on my web series to get to the joke.
I love that,
interviewed-
by the way. Huge fan.
Thank you. I interviewed Dan DePriel, and like he was getting who was also Weekday Comics. Shout out Drop Tent Media
Hey, Drop
Podcast.
Tent in the house.
His parents were divorced, and his dad would lie to him, being like, "Your mom's a drug addict or a drunk," or I'm sorry, he didn't say drug addict, like a drunk and all this other stuff. Like that's bad lying to your kid.
Yeah.
Like you're not lying in
Well,
that
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
context. Yeah.
Yeah, but still, it's like that's where it's like, okay, you see all this stuff on social media, and I'm a great dad in those regards, but it's not. Nobody can always walk the walk. You know, that's I think is the point. You can't always walk the walk. You
But
see
we also
people you
put-
think are killing it, they got
Oh
skeletons.
no,
in their
we all got
closet.
skeletons. But we also put ourselves in positions where we have to lie because we make up things that cannot be true, and then we keep them going for like
Yeah.
She kept
1
asking
to
too,
10
'cause
years.
that's the
It's
part
like-
of it. She keeps repeating. She's like, "Did I get this book? Where did you get this book? When did this book get
Yeah,
here?"
you can't-
And I'm like, she's just causing me to dig myself in the hole more and more.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh my god. So I don't know. It all's well that ends well. But she loves reading. The Tooth Fairy's bringing her a book.
Okay, shut the fuck up about the
So
reading thing.
whatever.
I want to ask you a question here about. I do admire you, dude. You are. I would say like Jay is almost living kind of like the life I'm looking to search for, where it's like you're a good dad, but you go hard in comedy. How is this lifestyle sustainable for you?
Jay,
Are
you
you-
let Mark come in here and interview
Yeah,
the
he's
dude
Dr.
now?
Phil.
Is that what you're doing? Let
No,
him take
because
control
you
of
gotta
it?
drink
a lot of.
Hold on a second.
What you gotta do is you gotta not have time to be tired. That's really the key.
Well,
You have
no.
to really-
Question
Right,
for
that's
Jay.
it. That
Question
is-
for
You have
Jay.
to
though.
drink a lot of coffee
Holy
and,
shit!
like,
Holy
know
shit!
that
Hold
he's
on.
not gonna
A
be
legit
fucked,
question here because I don't know what Jay. Cause Jay's a full-time teacher. Like he's not, whatever. He's like a full-time teacher, full-time husband, full-time father, and involved in all the sports that you just mentioned that your kid is doing. And you're doing comedy almost every night of the week, maybe without tonight or something. But even here, you're at a podcast for comedy. At least you're hoping this guides to more sales in comedy. What? How do you sustain? How are you gonna sustain this? Being what 3 years in now? How are you?
Neil CNN, same question.
Yeah. I
What
think it's a
did you
great.
say?
I think it's a great question that's in process. But I will say that I'm intentional about like something had to give. So prior to comedy, I was a 3-sport coach, which meant I was 6 days a week, like coaching till so not home from like 2 to 9 at night sometimes, making peanuts. But because I love the sports, I coach football, basketball, and baseball.
Yeah.
And so when the pandemic hit and that all stopped,
Yeah.
I realized all of this time and I had all this time with my family then, and we were all in this house together. And then when I started doing comedy, it was kind of like, oh, then everything kind of reshifted and was like, so when that stopped, I cut all of, I used to be in everything. I announced the sports. I did Saturday Detention. I did the book for basketball when I was done coaching middle school basketball. So I just cut all of that out and I just stopped doing everything extra at school. And that's where that time was. So I just swapped the time, and actually I got more time back, and I'm doing better off because it's like what coaches get paid versus what I'm getting paid now to do some of these shows I'm doing. Like, man, it's like we're going on like 2 or 3 vacations this summer.
Nice.
Like we're putting a deck on the house. Like we're able to do all these extra things now that I honestly should have been able to do doing what I was
Yeah,
doing.
talk about how little they pay teachers.
Right.
I mean, this guy's putting his life upskill by being a comedian. How the fuck
Seriously.
did that happen?
I leveled up. I leveled up so hard.
Please
It's
pay
disgusting.
raise taxes and pay teachers. Jesus Christ! All right, and then
but-
I got a question for you. So you just got married, dude. Congrats, by
Yeah,
the way.
I did. Yeah, man, thank
Did you have a prior? I don't really know. I don't really know anything about your wife or anything. But like, did you talk to your wife ahead of time about being like? By the way, I'm a comic, and that's going to kind of have to be on par with the time I spend with you because, like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to pursue this. I really don't know what you
Yeah.
do for a living full time. Physical fitness,
I
maybe.
train people. Yeah.
I was saying,
I train
I was
people.
saying, first of all, there's something about being bald and getting in shape, which is the right way to go, which I have not done because I'm also bald. Like, you look at Jeff Bezos, who's like the richest guy in the world. Like, he got super jacked. The more money he got and the more bald he got super jacked. Anyways, but like, did you have that talk with her? Like, by the way, okay, and
Yeah, I was like-
she was okay with it?
Yeah, she's like, okay, cool. She's like, I was like, I'm gonna do this thing, and I'm gonna go hard, and I'm gonna be driving.
Because you and I were
places
at
and-
what Joel's or whatever till almost midnight or whatever
I was-
for no money, just
Yeah, yeah.
last weekend.
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty much that. It was like, yeah, I'm gonna be going.
So you
hard.
guys
I'm gonna
deliberately
be-
had that talk. That's good.
This is what I
think
wanna
that's
do.
important to
But
have. I did not have that talk.
I was in corporate America, and then I got that COVID. Because of COVID, they let me go.
oh shit.
And like, I was so miserable. And I was like, I'm not going back.
Good for you, man.
So I didn't go back. And
how do you do that with kids though? Because like I would love to have that
gotta-
mindset that you have, but I'd be like, well,
Save money, pinch some pennies, shit like that, and then it just worked out.
and were you dating your wife at the time that you?
Yeah,
let
yeah.
that-
We've been
and
together for 5 years, so she's been.
Did you have that conversation? Like, I got to quit this job and I'm going to do it.
She
no
was
matter
like,
what your opinion
don't
is?
go back.
Oh, okay.
She's
So
like,
she
you're
was
so
supportive.
fucking miserable. Go do something else. Go make yourself.
But
happy.
that's it. I mean, that's the end goal. Is like if we're not happy, how can we be there for our
That's
kids?
it.
Yeah.
Right, and that's pretty much where it's at. It's like if we're not happy in our own lives, then how are we going to pass that on to our kids? And that's when you get people that get to a place where they're not. So I think, you know what? Hey, if it makes me happy and it makes our family better, then that's the name of the
You
game.
figure the rest out.
Oh yeah.
You figure the rest out.
Look at you, Marc Staudenmaier.
Staudenmaier,
man.
you
Thank
killed it, man. You had
dude.
the interview questions.
Interviewing
you
us.
Dr.
This
Phil
was
in hand.
amazing, dude. I really appreciate you coming out.
I appreciate
Yeah.
you guys having me on. Sorry
Good
about
stuff.
anything I said today.
That was great. No, you're awesome, man, dude. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully you guys will have me back, or maybe Neil, probably the
Never.
keeper of this.
Mark, plug yourself. Obviously, I have up on the screen the old Instagram.
Yeah,
there,
I would
but,
say if anything to plug is my web series. Get to the joke. I like it being a web series, but it has to be a podcast too, which it doesn't have the very official podcast route. It's droptent.com. I also don't have the money that people were paying.
First
Drop 10.
Thursdays and
First
PJ
Thursday,
Ryan.
yeah. I mean, first day at PJ
Hershey
Ryan,
Vineyard.
yeah, South End Comedy, Mark, whatever. I mean, no
You're
one's
so
looking me up.
excited about
Yeah.
it. These guys, he's foaming at the mouth.
No one's
over
looking
here.
me up.
Not harder. Holy shit.
I was just like, if you want to book me, book me. I'll do it. I mean, I'm saying this is my thing. You're as good as the shows that you get asked to be on. And so I will play any show. You want me
check
to
'em out.
You want me to host your bar room with the TVs on? I'm there. All right.
Sure. All right, man.
All right. No, this was fun, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Neil, from behind the camera, and appreciate being here today, guys.
Seriously, Dad?
Seriously?
Thank you for listening to the dads, for once. Give these daddies a break. And maybe follow, subscribe, like, and comment to the dads on Instagram and YouTube at Seriously Dad Pod. Rate and review Seriously Dad Podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
Seriously, Dad?
How you doing? This is Neil Wood from the Cult of Us podcast, speaking on behalf of Drop 10 Media Network, the network you're currently listening to. Make sure to check out all the other podcasts on the network. You can go to drop10.com to check them all out. Make sure to like, subscribe on everything that you see Drop 10 on. We appreciate it. Go to drop10.com now.
This has been a Drop Tent Media production.